Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Najwa. I'm so happy you're here. If you're new here, I need you guys to, before we get started, do me a couple of favors. So you can help out this channel a couple of ways. You can help this channel grow by supporting us. We do a lot of research, and when you donate to this channel, it helps pay for our software, our supplies, our hardware, things like that. So you can donate actually through Super Thanks, or you could donate through PayPal. That would be great. Another way that you can help us grow is by liking this video. Just take that thumb and smash the like button. You can also subscribe and you can hit the bell for notifications. Now, guys, my husband is in the chat. He's in the house. He's Portuguese. If you guys speak Portuguese, you could say bom dia. But he is there. If you guys have any questions, if you have any thoughts, let's go ahead and get started. So, first, before we get started, I just wanted to do a quick moment of silence for Israel. So let's make that happen. And right now, you can just put in any thoughts and prayers that you might have. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So, first, I want to start with a few honorable mentions. I'm going to start by talking about Tommy Tuberville. Now I know there's a way I can do this here where I can get both of these things on the screen. It doesn't really work. I'm just going to put it full screen. You'll see my face later. So I just wanted to put a few honorary mentions in here that aren't necessarily on the list as, full blown in the full 50 odd something Congress people, House representatives, and senators that I've put together that really, really have done things that are frowned upon, that are morally corrupt, morally bankrupt, criminally bankrupt. But I did also put a few honorable mentions in here. So Tommy Tuberville is a senator. He's out of Alabama. Let's just go through some of his information. He is a senator, and his term actually ends in 2027. So while I couldn't 100% put him in here for top 50 worst GOP to vote out in 2024, he did need to get an honorable mention because he really, really has put us into a compromising position. So the first thing that he's done is he has excused white supremacy. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just one moment. I actually am from the same state that he represents, and Tommy Tuberville should just know better. The state of Alabama has such a sordid history, a sordid past with racism, with the Ku Klux Klan. So many people have suffered at the hands of racism and white supremacy. So for him to say that is extremely tone deaf and is extremely hurtful for all of his Black constituents. It was very, very hard to hear that. The next thing is he actually is endangering America to be susceptible to foreign attack by holding this military promotion blockade, because he and his donors don't want women in the military to have health insurance to get an abortion, you know? So he is quite literally putting America at, a vulnerability to be susceptible to foreign attack. 9/11 was a real thing, and 9/11 did not happen when America had a blockade with the promotions of its military. I'm not saying that because I'm someone who wants to just sit here and be capitulating about how the Republicans are horrible just to be doing it. I'm not, and I respect the two-party system. And if you want to be a Republican, I think that that is okay. But what he's doing is literally jeopardizing America's safety. So that day, when people and their family members may be lost because America's not military ready, yeah, it's not good. So the next point is he is generally uninformed about history, about policy. He doesn't even understand what World War II was about. He was unable to identify the three branches of government. So that's kind of icky. He also spread the big lie that the election was stolen. And lastly, I mean, not really 100% to put on the list, but he's also a bad investor. The hedge fund he invested in actually lost $2 million. And I don't get how he wants to tell the US to spend his money. So I saw something kind of funny online from actually a online publication out of Alabama, which I love. I'm like, I'm glad that the small town America state that I came from is actually doing something to talk about this. But I read this publication online. I can't remember what it was, but it was out of Alabama. And he goes, well, I guess they say what they say about, football dudes is right, that they're dummies, and I don't want to sit here and call the guy a dummy, but he is jeopardizing America's safety. So, again, just to reiterate, what happened on 9/11? There was no military blockade, no military promotion blockade, and that still happened, okay? If you were one of the unfortunate souls to lose a family member, to lose friends, or even if you just remember where you were that day. I remember exactly where I was that day and seeing that on the news, and it just totally, totally ripped your soul and your heart out. Yeah, this guy is putting something, in this crazy world, this crazy dangerous world that we live in. He's putting America at a very inadequate military ready capacity to deal with something like this. So just keep that in mind. So this here is an interview. It was published this week by Birmingham-based radio station WBHM. Tuberville criticized the state of the military and said Democrats were to blame. We are losing in the military so fast. Our readiness in terms of recruitment, said Tuberville, which I find ironic. That's me saying that. I find that ironic. A member of the Armed Services Committee. And why? Tuberville goes on, I can tell you why. Because the Democrats are attacking our military, saying we need to get out the white extremists, the white nationalists, people that don't believe in President Joe Biden's agenda. Asked whether he believed white nationalists should be allowed in the military, Tuberville said, they call them that. I call them Americans. And this is from Time. Again, as someone from Alabama, I just want to ask Tommy Tuberville, do you remember the four little girls? Do you remember the four little girls? Do you remember the 16th Street Baptist Church burning where four little black girls were there practicing for chorus? And, white supremacists burned down a church with kids inside of it. Do you remember that? Did you just call them happy-go-lucky Americans? That's just something to keep in mind. Or do you remember the Birmingham cross burnings or the lynchings, Senator? Just wondering. Okay, so next honorary mention, we're going to go for Mitch McConnell out of Kentucky. So Mitch McConnell is the Senate Minority Leader. He's honorary on this list because he actually is not up for re-election in 2024, but he's up for re-election in 2027. But I think it's very prudent for him to step down, and we're going to go into why. So he's only thinking of a millionaire, billionaire class, guys. He does not think of average, everyday Americans. Again, I respect the two-party system, but you got to call things the way it is. He's not helping the everyday, average American people. And I don't need to remind you what his net worth is. Mitch McConnell is making bank, okay? He only thinks of the millionaire, billionaire class. He opposes wage increase. He opposes Social Security. Some of you out there, I know what I'm saying stings. I'm from Alabama. I understand it. But listen to this. I know some of you get Social Security checks. He opposes wage increase, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment, and basically any other policy that helps working class Americans that don't make more than $30 million. Please take a look at this. The next thing is he also keeps freezing and falling. This is super serious. I'm going to get into this in a second. And guys, also feel free to let us know what you think in the comments. He also has a possible money corruption thing with his wife, and he was also complicit in Trump's rise. Now, let's first analyze, when we get to the freezing thing, let's analyze, first of all, how important of a duty his role as Senate Minority Speaker is. Now, he is the Senate Minority Speaker and not the Senate Majority Speaker, not because of any type of ruling or election. It's because right now the Senate is controlled by the Republicans and the House is controlled by Democrats. I'm sorry, the Senate is controlled by Democrats and the House is controlled by Republicans. So, since in the Senate, the Republican Party is the minority party, they don't have as many people in the Senate. He's the minority speaker. Now, I know a lot of you probably already know that, but some of you guys, you might not know. So I just want to share. But the fact that he keeps freezing, the fact that he's not really in the present moment sometimes in these things, aside from the fact of sort of just like from a human being space. It's not very nice to have someone going through clearly a health crisis and you're just pushing them to do more than what they can. Besides that, look here at what his duties are. They are too important to jeopardize, especially at this crucial moment for America and America's allies, fiscally, militarily, socially, politically, for somebody who's such a key player to really not be all in the game. So, the Senate Minority Speaker's role is to develop the minority party's legislative positions, direct negotiations with the majority party, and they also coordinate the minority party's strategy on the Senate floor. Now, you've probably heard something lately that the floor is just a mess. Okay. First of all, they develop the minority party's legislative positions. Like, why are we wondering why the legislature is in disarray when the person who develops the minority party's legislative positions is not fully in the game? Okay, I know a lot of y'all like sports, baseball, basketball. His head's not fully in the game, so this is bad. Lastly, they lead the minority party in floor debates. Again, we see why there's so much disarray. Now, this is not just me talking. This is what average American thinks. There was a poll that found that 60% of Americans think his health and age, he's 82 years old, severely limit his ability to do his job. Y'all, get this 82-year-old man out of such a very, very important position. I know whether you're Democrat or Republican, you understand what I'm saying. That's so important. Okay, so our next honorary mention is Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis. There's so many different ways that I've heard this man's name said. But either way, Ron DeSantis. He is the governor out of Florida who has wedged the war on woke. I know you guys all know him. So, just some of the points of why he needs to get on out of there. He, along with other far right extremists in Florida, pushed to um, they wanted to have a requirement. Sorry, there's a little typo in my presentation. They want to have a requirement that primary and secondary teachers teach the benefits of slavery in curriculum for primary and secondary learners. Okay, I don't need to speak on why that is atrocious. As a person of color, as a Black person who, like, 2 generations ago, there would have been slavery in my family. Yeah, I'm not loving the whole benefits of slavery part. And it's really, I mean, as many Black people live in Florida, it's that's really a slap in the face. And I know some of his constituents know deep down in their heart that their Black son-in-laws, daughter-in-laws, friends, neighbors, people they've gone to church with their whole life. Yeah, it's not nice. It comes to a point where Republicans, you guys got to wake up to the fact that you're being used. I mean, these people are using you just to continue to hold on to power. And it's not right. It's not right for you to treat your fellow Americans in that dehumanizing way. So the next thing is he's declared his war on woke. Ron DeSantis pushed his need to appeal to Republicans, to the Republican base, so far that the NAACP issued a travel advisory warning that said Florida is not a safe place to visit for minorities. Like, I don't even want to go into too much about how much I have a connection with Florida. I mean, I used to go to my uncle's beautiful house there, which was almost just like a big cabin, and it had this, was made of this beautiful wood, and we would go to Disney World there. We would go for my sister and brother's soccer matches there. To sit here and see this guy doing this to this state, for me, is really, really sad. Many also think that although while DeSantis has spoken out about Donald Trump refusing the peaceful transfer of power, he has still said he would pardon him if he was president. So for me, I'm not sure about that. It seems like a role that he's doing just to sort of, if Donald Trump were somehow to stay in power, he could say, "Hey, I know, I said that you refused to accept the election and that you lost, but I did say that I would pardon you if you get what I'm saying." So that's where he's kind of a little flip-flop. He also declared a war on Disney because of their anti-discrimination policies and their inclination to open its arms to the LGBTQ community and their hiring and things like that. And so he's waged this huge war on Disney, and Disney is one of the single most contributors, I mean, arguably the biggest contributor to his state's economy. And it's also one of the biggest contributors to the world economy. I mean, America's not the only place where there are Disney amusement parks. So, yeah, this was really not a good move, and it hurts America not only socially with these issues that really just, it's not very nice from a human level for people to be taking these stances against people who are supposed to be their neighbors. And we've seen it in very, very real ways. Ron DeSantis's rhetoric, how it sparks people, indirectly, at the very least. We saw that very recently there was a young Black woman hung from a tree in Orlando, literally a week ago. No, this wasn't in 1961, a week ago. And this has happened, I think, six times, like in the past year or something. A Black woman hung from a tree, and they're saying it was a suicide. So did she climb up there and hang herself? There was a guy, a white supremacist, who went and shot up a Dollar General, Dollar Tree, and one of those dollar stores in one of the Black neighborhoods. So his war on woke is apparently working, and it's working in atrocious, atrocious ways. Many Floridians, even if you are white, I know this is not where y'all's heart is. So it's time to wake up. Okay, so now let's get to the top one, number one. I'm gonna bring my face in right here so I can just do this with my face. Okay, enough said. So number one, let's see. Who do we got? Jim Jordan. Okay. So Jim Jordan is in the House of Representatives, and he represents Ohio's 4th district. He is up for re-election in 2024. Last day to vote is November, and his term is going to end 2025. So yes, get him on out of there. Now, again, for those of you who might be new to my channel, or if you're just coming in, I would love to have you support my channel. Please like my videos, smash the subscribe button, hit the bell for the notifications, okay? But to go back to Jim Jordan, I'm not sitting here just spouting off talking points that you hear on what the Republican Party often calls like leftist media, or those leftist Marxist media, whatever it is. I'm really not that person. I'm really, really not. But there has to be some level of accountability in our Congress. There's no way around that. And we have to have people who are morally sound in our Congress. We have to have people who know how to govern. So Jim Jordan, he spreads in lies, chaos, and wild rhetoric. He's also proven himself to be unable to work across the aisle. You have to be able to work across the aisle. Now, he almost was made Speaker of the House. Okay. The toss was up between Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise. Okay, so I'm with Jasmine Crockett. These were the best two that you guys could do. Okay. But beyond that, the Speaker of the House needs to be able to be bipartisan and work across the aisle with their own party, with the other party. I don't see that happening with Jim Jordan. I don't see Jim Jordan interrogating, people about a useless Biden inquiry, which is really just a bone to pick with Donald Trump. You know, he's not working with Democrats in that way. I don't see him on COVID denialism and attacking scientists, scientists who specialize in diseases and vaccinations, going after them because of what conspiracies about COVID-19. I don't see that as someone who can work across the aisle. The reason that laws aren't getting passed the way that they need to is because people aren't working together. This can't be all about, like, how can I win? Those lawmakers are not there to say, how can I win? No matter what it takes. They're there to pass laws for average Americans so that we have things like, I don't know, clean water and clean air, healthcare, Social Security, Medicaid, so that we can retire affordably. We can have affordable education. We can have good foreign policy. Our military can be ready. Yes, those are the things that politicians in Congress are supposed to be working on. So the next point, he denied the R word and impregnation of a then 9-year-old victim in his state of Ohio. Yeah, that happened. He deleted the tweet after it was very, very clear what was going on, but that happened. The next one is he stood complicit when students tried to expose his coworker of sexually assaulting some wrestlers when he worked at Ohio State. That coworker later committed suicide, but Jim Jordan denied all of it. Well, if Jim Jordan denies everything, why did this man unalive himself? I really, really hope that the ethics committee and the judiciary committee take another look into that. The next point is that he spread misinformation of the big lie, which was that Donald Trump supposedly won the election, which he didn't. And he remained complicit, asking the January 6th insurrectionists to stand down. He plotted directly with Donald Trump that day on how to overturn the election. Liz Cheney said it. He had way more involvement in January 6th than we know of. Lastly, he says he's for fiscal responsibility, but doesn't know how to carry out policy to both carry out budgetary urgencies and, here goes it, what the majority of Americans need, i.e., healthcare and Social Security, unemployment, retirement. Duh. Okay. So let's take a look here just to delve a little bit more into January 6th. Because if you're downplaying January 6th, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later, I'm going to really paint a picture for you so that we can just kind of be on the same page. But January 6th was extremely, extremely important. It is extremely important. It's the day that American democracy was attempted to be overturned. It's the day that people decided, okay, we'll use autocracy to get what we want. It was the day that the peaceful transfer of power went away. It was the day that it was this higher class of people and those other people. Okay, Republicans out there, y'all, I'm not saying this stuff to knock on you. You have to know somewhere inside of you that this is wrong. So Jim Jordan suggested Democrats will try to steal the election starting on August 22nd, 2020, and then suggested and directly alleged the election was stolen starting November 5th, 2020. He endorsed Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell's call to investigate Dominion and Smartmatic starting November 15, 2020. He called for immediate congressional investigations of alleged election fraud starting November 18, 2020. He endorsed state legislators picking their own electors starting December 7, 2020. He said Trump should not concede starting December 7, 2020. So they pretty much knew where this was going, but there was no chance of stopping them. He started public call to object the certification on January 6th, starting December 13, 2020. He supported a call for special counsel to investigate alleged election fraud starting December 10, 2020. He called January 6th the ultimate date of significance on December 16, 2020. He met with Donald Trump and a small group of House Republicans to coordinate plans to object to the certification on January 6th, December 2020, 2020. So this is bizarre. He raised Trump supporters' expectations by saying he hoped a majority of Congress will object on January 6th, on January 5th, 2021. He helped lead the effort to vote against the certification on January 6th, starting December 13, 2020. He called for Trump supporters to remain peaceful, but does not say to disperse. That was on the day of January 6, 2020 at 3:02 p.m. He made false claims about Speaker Pelosi and security preparations for January 6th, starting February 15, 2023. And he revealed for the first time that he spoke with President Trump on January 6, 2021. So, what I'm going to go ahead and say here, guys, is you're going to have to be very proactive to make sure that Ron DeSantis, Mitch McConnell, Jim Jordan, these honorary mentions on these lists that I'm going to be doing, contact your legislators, contact your state senators, your federal senators, and just say, listen, I want to get this person out of here. Contact other representatives who you think will actually advocate for the things that you want to see. Because, like I said, they're not up for reelection in 2025. Well, no, Jim Jordan is, I'm sorry, Mitch McConnell, Tommy Tuberville, and Ron DeSantis, they're not up for reelection in 2024. But Jim Jordan, you can go ahead and get him out. So it says fourth here, this was on just security, and I think this was sort of listed out like different reasons why Jim Jordan was complicit, something like that. But it says fourth, he's going to make promises about cutting spending that he won't be able to keep. This in no small part is what brought down the last three Republican speakers. They talked a big game about shrinking government, but they didn't deliver because they were fundamentally lying. When Republicans say we're going to cut government, they mean domestic discretionary spending, which is less than 15% of the budget. Drastic cuts to those programs are unpopular, so there just isn't that much to cut. Speaker Jordan will bump up against this reality just as Speakers Boehner, Ryan, and McCarthy did. So I also pulled this for you guys just in case you are maybe Gen Z or millennial and you're, really just entering your sort of place into the scheme of all of this, and maybe you want to know, or you could be any age, but I just pulled some terms and I pulled a little graph that might help us kind of put some of this into context. So discretionary spending, these programs range from transportation, housing, education, social service programs, as well as science and environmental organizations. So Jim Jordan is saying, instead of taxing those millionaires and billionaires who make 400 times the salary of their average employee, instead of getting all the taxes from them that they owe to the US government, let's just continue to give them tax cuts, okay? And we just will make a bunch of cuts on things that everyday average American people who actually really need the government's help, on things like education, housing, social service programs, transportation, science, and environmental. Let's just slash the funding from that. Yeah, that's not a very smart idea. So this is a little graph that I pulled up. You have mandatory, discretionary, net interest, sort of. It kind of maps out a little bit how that discretionary fund flows out. And you can see there, discretionary funds is not very much, it's not that much. You have on the totality of the map non-defense, defense, social security, Medicare, Medicaid, income security programs, student loan programs, other. There's so many things that we need to be taking a look at that is important. First of all, Jim Jordan, you can't just lone wolf this thing. I know that the Republican Party right now is ironically made of a bunch of very, very rugged individualists, but you can't do that. You have to work with the entirety of Congress to make these things happen. And I think something, just very candidly, I'm going to say that needs to be infused into the Republican Party of today, if it wants to last at least another 100 years, is humility. So these are some alternatives to Jim Jordan in 2024. Now, I don't have time to go through each of the candidates, so you will have to go and do your research yourself. But at least now you kind of have this video that you can come back to. I don't know, I might make this video membership only, but if I do, I won't do it until at least tomorrow. But you can go and look at this video and you can research these yourself. Okay, so there's Jeffrey Seitz, he's a Democrat. Stephen Thomas, who's a Democrat, Tammy Wilson, who's a Democrat, and there also may be future candidates to announce before the December 2023 filing in Ohio. Okay. So number 2 is Marjorie Taylor Greene. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is a House representative, a U.S. federal House representative from the state of Georgia, where I grew up. I was born in Alabama, but I grew up in Georgia. And she represents the 14th district, and her term ends, would you guess it? It ends in 2025. Don't you find it kind of ironic that all of the Republican GOP people from Congress, who just are always doing the most, their term ends in 2025? Like, they're up for reelection in November 2024. Okay, I think I get it. Oh, good Lord. Okay, so aside from her utter lack of governing, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. And again, this is not coming from a bias point. I'm a centrist, y'all. I'm literally just looking at policy. I'm looking at moral behavior, ethical behavior. I'm looking at whether they really are putting into Americans a sense of stability and one that you can trust, or if they're really just stoking hatred and fear. I'm looking at those things. It's how I compiled this list. And I don't know anything about this woman's policies. I don't know nothing. All I know is her utter lack of governing. I have never, ever seen anything about this woman's policies as they concern the big questions about Social Security, healthcare, education. I'm going to keep coming back to those things. It might sound repetitive, but that's what Congress is there for. It's not there for lawmakers to tell people what they should do with their bodies. Okay. She's a rampant conspiracy theorist. I mean, really, really rampant. She said something about okay, let me just go to my notes here real quick because it's deep, y'all. It's deep. Okay. So she has spread conspiracy theories like space lasers funded by Jewish rich bankers caused a wildfire in California. That's rampant climate change denialism. If you don't want the world to turn into a brown goop, we're going to need to take a look at climate change. Okay. All right. To that one that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton killed Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who died in a plane crash. She's tooted a conspiracy theory that they unalived him to gain power, and that Barack Obama was a secret Muslim operative, which is both racist and somehow xenophobic. All right, Marjorie Taylor Greene. So she tried to blame the GOP led insurrection on January 6, 2021 on Black Lives Matter, which for the most part has been peaceful protests, and Antifa. Again, vaguely racist, maybe not even vaguely. She also texted Mark Meadows about martial law, spelled the wrong way, on the day of January 6th. And she also visited jailed insurrectionists and defended them, often compares Trump to Jesus. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene, representing my state. Oh my God. Wow. She is deeply anti-LGBTQ and deeply trans. Now, let me just say here real quick. Let me just say here, just let me put both of these on the screen. You don't have to necessarily agree with people's lifestyles, but I know Republicans that y'all have people in your family that you love who are LGBTQ. They might be your children. They might be your neighbors. They might go to church with you. They might be your grandkids. Okay. Do you want to have politicians who continue to stoke fear and hatred to the point that maybe your loved one gets lost like the way that kid did at the gas station? Do you remember that? Do you want your loved ones literally to be persecuted and possibly harmed because politicians, instead of doing their job in order to get more clicks, more likes, and to maintain power, they ramp up that hatred? Is that what you want? Same thing with the vaguely racist stuff, with the anti-Black sentiment, because even the most staunch MAGA supporters, I know you guys have some sort of people of color in your orbits, whether it might be people who married into your family. I know it. Is this what you want to happen to the people that you love? So, she spends more time on Twitter trolling and harassing than actually governing to help everyday Americans. She also rejects critical race theory. She said that teaching kids about slavery and racism causes mental health issues. There was major projecting going on when she called the Democratic Party the party of Satanists and pedophilia, because pretty much most of those allegations that I've seen when they come out of Congress come from the GOP. She wants to impeach Joe Biden on boundless charges to get back at him on behalf of Donald Trump. Okay. Right there, we're going to pause. I do have to again say, if you're new to this channel, I really, really, really would love you to do me a favor. Please like my videos, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. And if you also want to help out, because we put a lot of time and effort into research, compiling our videos, and growing this little community of like-minded people, I'd love to help you guys. Have you guys help us grow by donating to the channel. Donate a super thanks. You can put it in the chat. You can put it in the comments. You can also donate through PayPal. So to come back to this, Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's a gap between her testimony and the text messages. This is from Washington Post. There's a gap between her testimony and the text messages is stark. Under oath, she insisted that the rioters, being BLM or Antifa, was the only thing that made sense to most of us, quote unquote, most of us, as the attack was unfolding. But in fact, her apparent assumption as the riot was underway was the correct one, that Trump supporters were deploying violence in defense of the then president. And then, less than 2 weeks later, she'd apparently take a more affirmative position on using force to retain power, casually floating the idea that Trump directly engaged in a military-backed coup. Are you guys hearing this? Republicans, are you hearing this? You still have time to turn around. I know y'all are deep in. I know you got your pride, but you still have time to do what's right. I also want to put this in a global scale and a larger scale. So I'm going to come back to this element a little bit at the end. But just keep in your mind that many of these people that are on this list, and it's not a coincidence, they all have a similarity and that they were complicit with Trump. They were complicit with the big lie, with him trying to enact martial law to, overturn an election that he clearly lost, that he couldn't accept that he lost. His draconian beliefs, or so-called beliefs, that he wanted to put in place about LGBTQ and blacks and people of color and immigrants. I want you to keep that in mind, and we're going to come back to it. So she goes on to say, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I only knew what I was told, she said. I heard. I heard a gunshot. We all heard it, and we were so confused. We thought Antifa was breaking in or Black Lives Matter because those were the riots that had gone on throughout 2020. Day in and day out, just horrible riots all over the country. So you think it's horrible when Black people have to get out in the streets to say, please don't slaughter us. You think that's horrible. Okay, let me stop before I short circuit. There was the one thing that made sense to the most of us. That may be what made sense eventually, but in the first minutes of the riot, Greene's understanding was very different. So, with that being said, Marjorie Taylor Greene's alternatives in 2024. Again, if you're new here, I will not go into all of the different alternatives that you can vote for in 2024, but you can come back and check on these. You can check on these and take a note of it. And you can go and research these people on your own and see if they align with what it is that you want to see in a House representative or in a senator. So the alternatives are Bart Bryant, he's a Democrat, Tembray Cash, Democrat, Sean Harris, Democrat, Mandy White, Democrat, and there could be possible future candidates to announce before pending final filing deadline. So next is Matt Gaetz. So Matt Gaetz is a House representative out of Florida's first district. He actually intended initially to run to get the Senate seat that his dad held in 2016. But in my opinion, I think that he didn't really think that he was going to be able to get that seat because the senators are like the adults in the room. They're a little bit more seasoned, right? So I don't think he thought he was going to be able to swing that. So he aimed a little bit lower and went for the House. Okay. Again, you have to note many of these people on this list who were acting out and doing the most, spreading all the conspiracy theories. We see them on Fox more than we see Sean Hannity. They are on Twitter keyboard warriors. They are all up for re-election. That's not a coincidence. Okay, so he's up for re-election. You can vote for an alternative on November 5th, 2024, or before when early voting opens. And Matt Gaetz, he has said this of January 6th, 2021 insurrection. I don't know why that says January 5th. I'm sorry, guys. He said, we're proud of the work we did. Enough said. He has made his personal grievances with McConnell beef over his sex scandal and McCarthy beef over baseless Biden impeachment, not only his problem, but all of America's problems. People from Congress talk about it often. It's no secret that Matt Gaetz has wedged his beef with McConnell because he thinks McConnell is responsible for bringing the sex scandal, for the one who flagged it down and commenced the sort of investigation around him and this sex trafficking scandal that he is attached to, although he was although the charges ultimately were dropped. Okay. And he also had a beef, a wedge to grind with Senator McCarthy, because he thought, McCarthy should have never been there to begin with. He was the last one to vote to let McCarthy come in. And he also had this just extreme MAGA stipulation that McCarthy, you're going to get in here and you're going to impeach Joe Biden for me, for on behalf of Donald Trump, or you're out of here. So he always was hanging that over his head. Now, is that the type of person really that you want to be advocating for you to again have those things like transportation, social security, healthcare? It's like, no, that's not what they're really trying to take a look at. He is a conspiracy theorist like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example. Well, actually, this is more on the theatrics line. So he's also really into theatrics. For example, during the height of the COVID pandemic, he thought that'd be a good time to play a little gimmick and wear a gas mask on the House floor. Yeah, I said a gas mask, basically to downplay COVID, that killed 1 million people. So he was also involved. This is the big kahuna. He was involved in an alleged sex trafficking scandal of a 17-year-old Bahamian girl, but the charges were dropped. And many people think that the charges were dropped actually because it was skewed in his favor. Gates also, I think this was his first piece of legislation, guys, was to introduce legislation to abolish the Environmental Protection Agency. Again, if we don't have policy that's geared directly towards climate change, the world could literally just devolve into brown goop. I don't think people want that. So Gates also was the only one to vote on an anti-human trafficking bill. Again, what kind of person? This is not the person that we need advocating for our laws. Okay, so here's from Axios why it matters. Gates, one of President Trump's most vocal supporters, has routinely made baseless claims regarding election fraud. He has mentioned the Capitol insurrection on social media more than any other Republican in Congress, and that includes the House and the Senate. Biden on Thursday, okay, this is a little bit old, squarely blamed Trump for the riot and said the former president called the mob to attack the Capitol. So, what he's saying, Gates said, we're ashamed of nothing. 6 people died. People defecated on the floors in the Capitol, our seat of American democracy. They put up a noose to hang Mike Pence. Congress people were fearing for their lives, okay? Sitting in their offices, hiding under their desks. And Matt Gaetz says, we're ashamed of nothing. Gaetz said that during an appearance on Boehnen's podcast with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that doesn't surprise me. It's like Dante's inner ring of the Inferno. When you get a bunch of kind of characters together, they really just start going at it. He said, we're proud of the work we did on January 6th to make legitimate arguments about election integrity, he said. We're actually going to walk the grounds that patriotic Americans walked from the White House to the Capitol, who had no intent of breaking the law and doing violence. So we deserve better than this, okay? And again, just remember, House of Representatives, Senate, they're not there only to work for the Republican Party, only to work for the Democratic Party, nor to continue to get podcasts, to continue to tweet crazy stuff, to continue to get deals on Fox News. They're there to govern for all Americans, whether they be Republican, Democrat, independent, no label, centrists, left, right, fat, skinny, black, white, Mexican, Latino, Asian, whatever. All Americans. Just remember that. So these are the alternatives in 2024. do the research, see which ones align closer to just normalcy, if I'm just going to be quite frank. You have Gay Valimont, a Democrat, Todd Jennings, a Republican, William McPhillips, a Republican, and then possible future candidates to announce before April 26, 2024 filing deadline. So next, this one's a little close to my heart. So you have Cameron Sexton. So Cameron Sexton is in the State House of Tennessee. He's a Speaker of the State House. And he is ranked number 4. His term ends in 2025. Again, doing the most. Yep, pretty sure they can get elected out in 2024. That's basically, I feel like, how you can judge this. So he remained complicit, like many of his fellow House Republicans, offering a willingness to work with Democrats to address America's gun problem. And Tennessee has a gun problem. Okay? 3 adults, 3 children, unalived, okay, by a shooter at a school in Tennessee, okay? And 2 Black Tennessee state representatives, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, along with another council person, a white woman, protested a peaceful protest alongside a bunch of young students, young American students, adults, young adults, children, peaceful, an anti-gun protest alongside students about the recent school shooting. And he basically expelled them. He expelled just the 2 Justins, just the Justins, not the white woman that they protested alongside, just the Justins. They were eventually reinstated. Cameron Sexton also faced controversy from his constituents when they learned that he doesn't even live in the district that he claims to serve. Allegedly, the story is that he purchased the home apparently through a secret trust that he uses to pay with taxpayer funds. He also his own county officials asked him to step down. So they asked him to step down, and they cited that he doesn't understand the real consequences that those in his district are facing since he doesn't live there. There are no alternatives to Sexton in 2024. I know there's got to be someone out there. Guys, look to the lawyers, the attorneys, the admirable people in your local town if you live in this district in Tennessee, District 25. This is a call to action, District 25. Do you guys have any sane Republicans or great Democrats that you guys think you could put in the running for the Tennessee House of Representatives? Please do it, because there's got to be better than this. So, number 5, Steve Scalise. Now, I definitely debated whether or not I wanted to put this one on here. I know, I did. Steve Scalise, I definitely get the how do I want to say this? I definitely get the idea that he sort of is like the old guy in the room, for lack of better terms. I don't want to say like he's actually old. It's more like he seems like the guy in the room who probably is I feel like he's served for like 20 something years. I may be wrong. 10 or 20 years this guy has served. So I feel like he's probably someone who has a lot of experience. And so a lot of the House might just kind of look at him as one of their seasoned vets. Okay. But take a look. He once compared himself to David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the Knights of the KKK, without all the baggage. Yeah, I don't think that's I don't think that's really who you want to compare yourself to. Doesn't seem like a great, point of, honor. I don't think that's a great point of honor. I don't think that's really a title that one wants to compare themselves to. Not unless you were a white supremacist. Are you a white supremacist, Steve Scalise? I don't know. So despite having been shot by a random person during a congressional baseball practice, and likely to, okay, so he was at a baseball practice, a congressional baseball practice. He likely will have to walk with a cane for the rest of his life. He has a cane and he has a bit of a limp, okay? And he'll likely be like that for the rest of his life. He still remains unmoved to forge on real change on gun reform laws in America, people. What logic does that make? I'm getting the idea of doubling down. And doubling down is not always good for yourself as an individual, but it also is not good for your constituents. So he is also anti immigrant. Now, this is something where people might compare him to a McCain or Bush or Reagan. They might say he's more of a traditionalist, but I don't think so, and I'm going to tell you why. Anyway, so on the anti-immigrant front, and other Republicans that have this vague whiff of sort of xenophobia and racism towards Obama and the Affordable Care Act, which ensures 40 million Americans, more than 8% of the country, yeah, are covered by the Affordable Care Act. And Steve Scalise wants to gut it all. He also denounced the violence on January 6th at the Capitol, which I do think is admirable. But he was also complicit in perpetuating the big lie. He continues to sort of pussyfoot around Donald Trump and this thing. So the alternatives for him is male manual Democrat, and there might be possible future candidates to announce before July 19th, 2024. So those of you who might be new to my channel, I do just want to go ahead and say I would love for you to support my channel. You can support my channel by helping me grow. You can donate. So put in the super chat. You can also donate to my PayPal. And it's not all about the money. You can also just throw us a little like, give us a little smile, pop a little nice comment in there. You can subscribe. You can hit the bell for notifications. That also helps push this out to the algorithm. So moving on, George Santos. Now, this one's a little bit of a doozy for me, and we're almost at the end here. This is number 6. Now, George Santos is pretty much, okay, let me bring my face in. How do I want to pose this? George Santos is refusing to step down, but at the same time, his term is almost about to end. And I asked myself, maybe is he doing that because maybe he just thinks, what's the point? I'm probably not going to be reelected anyway. And you're going to see how there are so many people running against, like more than any other person on this list. But even beyond that, I'm like, does he just know he's already screwed? And he's like, I might as well just keep getting the paycheck until, it's over or whatever. Or, does he actually believe his lies? And they really are a lot of lies. So take a look at this. He's out of New York District 3. He's in the House of Representatives. I thought he was a senator. He's so freaking sanctimonious that I thought he was a senator. Like he had so much experience. But then I went, look, and he's in the House of Representatives. He's number 6 on our list, and his term ends 2025. You can vote him out in 2024. So despite being charged for committing wire fraud, money laundering, and theft of public funds, the representative has still refused to step down. He was complicit during January 6th. Again, I told you that's that key thread in all of this, and remains a Trump supporter. Recently, he has additionally, this was like really recent, really, I think like in the past 24 hours, this news dropped, additionally indicted over 23 charges, including identity theft and more stealing from his contributors, like literally marking up the value of what a donation was from a donor and then transferring that money right to his own personal doggone debit card. Like this is like, y'all, I lived through George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, those were all functional presidencies. Maybe not the best, but they were functional. And I never, ever saw stuff like this. Is it social media? Like what has made Congress this way? This is not normal. So he may have lied that 4 people who were killed in the anti-LGBTQ killings at Pulse nightclub in Orlando were his employees. I'm sorry, that's a typo. He said that they were his employees, 4 of these people who were killed in the anti-LGBTQ hate crime of a massacre, at a gay nightclub. He claimed that 4 of those people, those victims, were his employees, but it was debunked as a lie. He allegedly lied that his grandparents fled the Holocaust, also for clout. He lied about going to college. He's never been to college, as if no one would ever find out. He lied about his mother being in the trade center during the 9/11 attacks. At this point, it's more like, what didn't he lie about versus what did he lie about? There's even more. He lied and said he never dressed in drag, which apparently he did. But I did want to say, to be fair, people doing what they want to do behind closed doors, in the dark, is nobody else's business. It's nobody's business what you want to do. You want to dress in drag, you dress in drag, right? It's a free country. The point is that he lied. That's really what the point is. And he's clinged on to Donald Trump through all of this. I feel like bad behavior clings on to bad behavior, and that's the only thing that's here. Republicans, you still have a chance. You don't have to go down with these people. Okay, I know there's some good Republicans out there. You don't have to go down with these people. They don't own you. You still got time to turn around. So these are all the alternatives running against George Santos in 2024. I told y'all the list is long. I mean, there's plenty of other alternatives out there. Take your time. If you can, go and look into these and see, if you're from this district, see which of these really align more to what you think should be in a congressperson, the values, okay, the policy issues that you think should be in a congressperson. I won't read through all of these. You guys can just pause and take a look if you want. So the last person, and I won't say that this is an honorary mention, but this is a little bit of a different sort of take. Carrie Lake is a candidate. She is not actually holding office right now, but she should not hold office. Now, I know that she's a person of color. I know that she's a self-made woman, and she's kind of clawed her way up, and I can respect the hustle. But, we've already had so much bad behavior. We had denialism over things like climate change and COVID and science. We've had extremists. We've had this kind of fear mongering and the constant unaliving threats to public officials because people constant tweeting. I don't think we need more of that. We really need people, again, that's going to deliver on those things that Congress people are supposed to do. Things about policy, foreign policy, healthcare, transportation, okay, social security. I mean, the military, there's no other way to put it. So, like Donald Trump, Lake has been a staunch denier of the seriousness of the COVID-19 phenomenon and has rejected vaccines and consequentially rejected science. COVID has taken over 1 million lives in the United States, guys. I want to say the number is like 1.1 million. That's as many people as the population of Dallas, Texas, or Jacksonville, Florida. If you drove to Dallas, Texas, or Jacksonville, Florida, and it was empty, you would think the apocalypse had came. This is serious. 2 people that I know died from COVID. This is serious. So, like Donald Trump, she refused to accept that she had lost an election. She filed a lawsuit to overturn the election result. Remind you of anyone? It reminds you of Donald Trump. When she lost her bid for governor in Arizona, she aired her grievances and refusal to accept her loss to her extreme followers. She went after, she placed some label of whistleblower on a guy who was a recorder. And in return, her followers in the Phoenix area went after him, and he had to get full security and he had to, file a lawsuit against her. She downplayed her response to January 6th. Okay. She basically kind of tried to swing it both ways. She didn't really go too far on election denialism, but at the same time, she was quite complicit. She basically said, oh, well, I can't believe that they've got our people in jail if they haven't even charged them. They were charged. That was misleading. That was disinformation. So there are alternatives to Carrie Lake in 2024. I know many Republicans, you guys may not want to hear that, but it's true. There's Mark Lamb, he's a Republican. There's Robert Walker. There's Alan White. There's Brian Wright. Say that 15 times fast. There's Ruben Gallego and Alexander Keller. Now, I did want to just go through this with you guys real quick, and you're not going to like it. People who are really, really entrenched in the Republican Party, MAGA's not going to like it. But it needs to be said, these parallels need to be made. Take a look at the interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he talks about how, his dad was a Nazi, how he saw this happen once in Austria. America's not excluded for that. We've gotten so used to democracy being there that we sort of just think that air creates it, but it doesn't. We create it, and we are letting fascism slip in. Okay. Again, I'm from Alabama. Republicans, it's okay. I know, but y'all got to come up out of this. I know something in there is saying this is not right. So this is an article from a guy named Amir Ahmed, and it was published in Medium. And it says, make the lie big, keep it simple, repeat it over and over again until they believe you. Now, I'm going to draw a few parallels between Donald Trump and the Fuhrer. I know he doesn't like that, but it has to be said. Again, we have to remember what's at stake here. I don't think MAGA really wants America to become like Mussolini's Italy. I don't think they do, but if they continue down the path that they're going, it will. So take a look at this. He says, part 1, the Führer myth. And I recommend that you go and check this out in Medium in its entirety. I'm just going to read the list part. So 1, attack the truth, distort reality, use the big lie, create a magical fantasy. Number 2, Hitler's adolescent path to anti-Semitism. Number 3, the fascist supporters' many defense of their leader when faced with the truth. Number 4, fake news, Nazi attacks on the free press. That means, oh, everybody's lying. I'm not the bad guy. It's the media. The press is corrupt. Sort of like how Donald Trump said if he was made president again, he would close down MSNBC and Comcast. Okay. Night of the Long Knives, rationalizing Hitler's criminality, the beginning of the end. Number 6, Hitler's cult of personality, the Führer myth. Number 7, Brave New World, grand visions of the future. Number 8, unified fist, Nazi groupthink. Number 9, propaganda in all its forms. Number 10, I believe in the Führer's greatness despite all contradictions. Number 11, Germany's anti-Semitic radicalization. Number 12, the Holocaust, magical fantasy in its blackest gorm. And finally, number 13, fanatical resistance, the last days of World War II. Now, Hitler, I'm going to draw these parallels here. Hitler was a tax dodger. This is an article from NBC News, and I just thought this piece here was pretty funny. Listen to this. So tax troubles vanish for the dictator after he becomes a dictator. All of his tax problems, he had owed basically the equivalent of thousands and maybe millions to the German government, but when he became dictator, he basically made that all disappear. So to lower his taxable income, Hitler resorted to many of the perfectly legal tax avoidance strategies that Germans still use extensively today. He tried to write off his new Mercedes in 1925 as a company car. In one exchange with tax collectors, Hitler described the car as only a means to an end. You guys better watch out. That's how it starts. Oh, I'm just taking this cup from this restaurant. That's how it starts. They said it's reusable. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you're supposed to take it. Oh, but I mean, nothing's going to happen if I take it. Okay, so take a look at this. And Trump's recent judgment, on his properties. So this is what Judge Angoran said. Trump and his company massively overvalued his assets, creating a fantasy world on the financial statements he gave to banks and others, Judge Arthur Engoron found in a lawsuit filed by the New York Attorney General. Trump's Florida Mar-a-Lago club, for example, was overvalued on one financial statement by as much as 2,300%. Oh, goodness. The former president also lied about the size of his Trump Tower penthouse apartment, claiming it was nearly 3 times its actual size and worth $327 million, according to the ruling. The discrepancy from a real estate developer describing his own longtime home can only be considered fraud, the judge said. The exaggerated picture of Trump's wealth could have gotten him more favorable loan terms or lowered insurance costs, the attorney general has argued. So, what happens next? The judge will also weigh a possible $250 million in penalties and some remaining claims in a non-jury stated to start October 2nd. So, this is a little bit old. That's already started. So still, the ruling on one count during what's known as the summary judgment phase could prove the most significant outcome of the case, said Will Thomas, an assistant professor of business law at the University of Michigan. The first count, even though it is easier in some respects from the other counts, it lets one of the biggest remedies kick in. We're going to stop you from doing business, Thomas said. This is one of the worst outcomes you can get. Barring a successful appeal, Thomas said he doesn't see how the Trump organization can avoid losing control of their LLCs containing entities such as 40 Wall Street, Trump Tower, and a state outside New York City called Seven Springs. One strategy, establishing new LLCs in another state, is nearly impossible with legal claims such as a lien by a creditor or, in this case, a judge's ruling. So you can go and take a look at the rest of that, but you pretty much see where it's going. Again, why am I talking about this stuff? There is a reason why Donald Trump is the underlying factor with all of these people that we've talked about here. Okay. He said the United States, so this is from the National Guard. Okay, I see. This is from the National Guard. This is all the casualties of war. Now, you might think that Donald Trump is not as bad as the Fuhrer. You might think that Donald Trump could never unalive millions and millions of people. So the war was responsible, the between World War I and World War II, more than between 100 million and 200 million people were unalived in warfare. And 375 of those were American soldiers. That doesn't count the British, French, German, Russian, Hungarian, Ottoman Empire soldiers, the Soviet soldiers, you know? So, yeah, it's not good. So take a look at this. Just to draw those parallels again, this is what one user on Quora said about the Führer. They said he loved himself and only had contempt for the people and the institutions that kept Germany together. Does that sound familiar? Cut the FBI, cut the EPA. Does it sound familiar, guys? Just get rid of the Constitution, overthrow the Capitol, get rid of the Electoral College. That one maybe, I don't know. But does it sound familiar? He loved himself and only had contempt for the people and the institutions that kept Germany together. Every chance he had while in power to aggrandize himself at the expense of the people, the state, and the law, he took it. Judged by what laws and policies he enacted, he banned any public criticism of himself. He forced all marrying couples to buy a copy of his book to get the royalties. He forced the mint and the post office to put his face on all banknotes, coins, and stamps. He got the royalties. He decided to appoint himself president when the former president died. But he didn't think the title president sounded important enough. So he made up a new title not used in the Constitution, leader, Führer, and insisted that everyone called him that. He made up his own salutes, one for the people to give him, telling him how wonderful he was, and another just for him to receive the salute, as in, yes, I am wonderful, aren't I? He has streets, squares, and buildings named after him all around the country, as well as in occupied territory. He had the military and other officials swear oaths to him personally rather than the country and the Constitution. All right. So this is from the Center for American Progress. It says, meanwhile, in continued service to the big lie, Trump has stated that circumstances surrounding his loss allow for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. We'll leave that one there. So, back to that thing about millions and millions of lives lost. And we talked about Israel at the point of the hour, at the top of the hour, and we did a little moment of silence for them. World War I and World War II were very real. It was fueled on hate. It was fueled on one guy's crazy mind, unresolved childhood issues that he just funneled into hatred. It was very, very real. Now, Trump might not be responsible for like what all the people that were lost in the Holocaust or lost between World War I and World War II. Of course, we can't say that. But there is blood, there is struggle, there is strife, and it's really been on the backs of immigrants and Black people, of trans people, and also everyday Americans with the disinformation about COVID-19. So take a listen to this. 24 immigrants have died in ICE custody. This is an article from 2019. This was under Trump's administration. And then here, immigrants crossing the border. Last year was the deadliest for migrants coming across the border, with 728 fatalities recorded by the United Nations, which started counting in 2014. The UN has counted 340 more this year, a pace with 2021's grim record. And then there is the question of racist mass shootings. So the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history took place during the Trump era. In 2017, a gunman shot and unalived nearly 60 people at a music festival in Las Vegas. Also, this in November 2017, 26 people were unalived at a church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. In February 2018, 17 people were unalived at a high school in Parkland, Florida. In May 2018, 10 people were unalived at a high school in Santa Fe, Texas. In October 2018, 11 people were unalived at a synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In November 2018, 12 people were unalived at a restaurant in Thousand Oaks, California. In May 2019, 12 people were shot and unalived at an office building in Virginia Beach, Virginia. In August 2019, 22 people were unalived at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. We can do better than this, guys. This does not have to be our reality. This does not have to be our reality. And I know this stings for some Republicans. I know that there's something in there that's telling you, you still have time to turn around. You do. You still have time to turn around. Don't go down with Donald Trump. So this is from Chris Cameron from the New York Times. It says, as a pro-Trump protest turned into a violent attack on the Capitol on January 6th last year, 4 people in the crowd died. Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, was fatally shot by a Capitol police officer as rioters tried to breach the House chamber. Kevin D. Greeson died of a heart attack, collapsing on the sidewalk west of the Capitol on January 6th. Roseanne Boylan appeared to have been crushed in a stampede of fellow rioters as they surged against the police. Benjamin Phillips, the founder of a pro-Trump website called Trumparoo, died of a stroke. And in the days and weeks after the riot, 5 police officers who had served at the Capitol on January 6th died. Officer Brian D. Sicknick of the Capitol Police, who was attacked by the mob, died on January 6th. Officer Jeffrey Smith of the Metropolitan Police Department killed himself, unalived himself after the attack. Officer Howard S. Leibengood of the Capitol Police also was unalive. He died by suicide 4 days afterwards. So, again, making comparisons. This is from The Guardian, from an author named Andrew Anthony, and he basically elaborates on a book that talks about the people who unalived themselves, who committed suicide after the Fuhrer died. It says, it's delicate work that can easily look like a form of whitewashing. And promise me you'll shoot yourself. Florian Huber, a German writer and documentary maker, tells the story of the mass suicides that broke out, particularly in Eastern Germany, as the Soviet forces pushed towards Berlin. Terrified by Joseph Goebbels' anti-Soviet and anti-Slav propaganda, Germans unalived themselves in their tens of thousands. The epidemic, writes Huber, was an extreme expression of the meaninglessness and pain people felt in the face of defeat, humiliation, loss, shame, personal suffering, and the R word. MAGA, there's still time to turn around. You do not have to go down with these people. You know, their troubles are not your troubles. So make the lie big, keep it simple, repeat it over and over again until they believe you. Now, with everything that we just read through, I'm going to read this list one more time and you guys just tell me, do you think it sticks? So you have the Führer myth, attack the truth, distort reality, use the big lie, create a magical fantasy, a path in the adolescence to hate, the fascist supporters' many defenses of their leader when faced with the truth, fake news, the attacks on the free press, You have the Night of Long Knives, rationalizing Hitler's criminality, the beginning of the end. So the rationalization of criminality. You have the Cult of Personality, and then you have grand visions for the future. You have that Nazi groupthink or the unified fist. You have propaganda in all its forms. I believe in the Führer's greatness despite all contradictions. You have hateful radicalization. You have lots of bodies. And you have fanatical resistance, which he compares to the last days of World War II. I'm going to leave it with this last piece. So, when asked the question, do you think that Hitler really cared about Germans? This is what someone on Quora said. They said at first he cared for them according to his own understanding of reality, but he failed to understand that others had other dreams and another understanding. A sane father of a nation would have surrendered once it was clear that the beloved ideas could not be turned into reality. As such, I would say that the Third Reich fought for a long time, mainly to give Hitler a longer time in power and a longer life, even though Hitler perhaps did not consciously think so. This created great suffering, millions of deaths, and enormous destruction. On the plus side, we have only two things: that Hitler is seen as a despicable human being, and that his type of nationalism is one of the worst political systems humans can have. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. That's pretty much all I got for you for today, but we will continue the series. I've got like 50 of these. So today we went through basically the top 7. So we'll come back maybe to go through the next 5 or so, maybe 5 or 10. We'll see. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. And again, before you guys head out, remember, please help me grow my channel. Help us spread the word, spread this community, grow this like-minded community of people, and also just talk about stuff. We talk about all types of stuff on this channel. We talk about politics, but we also talk about pop culture. We talk about news. We talk about motivation. We talk about all types of stuff. So I think you'll really like it. So definitely push this out to the world. Like the video, click the subscribe button, hit that bell so you know whenever I post a video. Also put stuff down in the comments, engage with the video. It definitely helps me out. It helps spread the algorithm. And if you appreciate the work that we did today, also consider supporting this channel by donating me a super thanks. You can actually put that in the chat, or you can put it down below in the comments, and you can also donate through PayPal. Before I close out, I do just want to say, I grew up in little town America. Again, I said I'm from Alabama, so I'm really not here to vilify Republicans. It's just you don't have to go down with people who are already doomed, who are already bound to suffer for their guilt. You have time to turn around. And again, why does the Congress exist? It exists there to provide us with the most basic of our necessities as Americans, to provide us with health care. I know that there are Republicans out there who are MAGA Republicans who saw Donald Trump, who saw MAGA Republicans, and you saw their energy level. You saw how they were looking, how they carried themselves, and you thought, hey, these concerns that I have, they can do something about it. You thought that I really wish that I had more money to give to my adult children to help them out. I really wish that I had more money to take care of my young kids. If you had young kids, you say, I really wish I had more money for daycare. I barely got enough money to put gas in my car when that wasn't the case 10 or 20 years ago. You said, all of the jobs that I used to have, or this job that I used to have is disappearing. You said, I don't know what I can do. You said, I don't know, like I can't pay for my prescription drugs. I can't go to the hospital. And you saw these people and you thought that they could help you. I understand that. But remember, the ultimate goal of government, they're there to help you be able to have a comfortable retirement. They're there to make sure that you can go to the DMV without any problem, that you can make a call to the IRS if you got some questions about your tax return without a problem. They're there to be able to help give you affordable education. If you want to go and expand your education and go to university, go to college, go learn a trade, go learn a skill, they're there to be able to afford that and to create curriculums that appeal to all the different American archetypes. They're there for us to have policy that helps us have clean air and clean water. They're there to help us have um, affordable things like insulin. They're there to make sure that we have transportation. That's what government is there for. It's not there to drive culture wars. It's not there to alienate one group over another. Because MAGA Republicans, if you continue to do that, if you continue to alienate one group over another, eventually you will be one of the last ones left. And it'll be your turn to be alienated. That's the way that fascism works. Y'all still got time to turn around. You still got time to turn around. I know there's some good people out there. I believe in a two-party system. If you're Republican, that's all fine and well. I personally, as a centrist, believe that America's democracy works best when Democrats and Republicans work together, because that's what America is. America is a combination of conservative and liberal people. So when those representatives of that landscape represent the country and our government, and they work together to make it happen so that our laws, our policies, what we reflect out to the allies that we work with in the world is representative of what our actual country thinks, which is a combination of liberal and a combination of conservative. I feel like that's when government works best. Like I said, I lived through H.W. Bush. I lived through Bush. I lived through Barack Obama, lived through Clinton. And I just didn't see this bad behavior during those times. Even if I didn't agree with all the policies, I knew that my government officials, Republican and Democrat, could work across the aisle. Don't forget why those officials are there. They're there to work for you. They're there to make sure that you can afford the things that you need. MAGA, is not too late to turn around. And when you do, when you're done fighting with your family members and people that you grew up with and people who love you, who are waiting for you to come back, when you're done fighting with them on Facebook and Twitter, when you're done going off on tangents on truth or whatever it is, and you just let this man face his own consequences, please don't give him any more money. Go take up something like swimming, okay? Take up something like drawing or painting. Take a little break from Facebook and Twitter, And your family, your friends, those people who love you, they'll be waiting for you. It's not too late. But preaching done. I want to know what y'all think. Let me know in the comments. Again, do me a favor. Do me a favor. If you're new to this channel, please, please, please help me out. You can help me out by donating to my channel. If you like all the work that we did, the research that we did, you can also help us out by putting a super thanks or donating to this channel through PayPal. And you can also help grow this community by liking the video, clicking subscribe, and hitting the bell so you know whenever I post video. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really, really curious to hear what you think, respectfully. And with that being said, I will see you guys next time.